ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion.
The tech billionaire is now making good on his threat to start a new political party after Trump's massive spending bill becomes law. Trump announced his America Party over the weekend, writing in part, announced his America Party, writing in part, when it comes to bankrupting our country with waste, we live in a one-party system, not a democracy. Trump lashed out on Truth Social, accusing his ex-bestie of going, quote, completely off the rails and becoming a, quote, train wreck. Musk hit back by writing, what's Truth Social?
Yes, Elon Musk, once again, is throwing a public temper tantrum over Donald John Trump. But let's not be fooled, okay, by any of his antics. This feud is not about principle, policy, or having some moral awakening, which he never could. It is about simply power. Elon Musk backed Trump throughout the 2024 election, hoping to buy himself a seat at the table. And now that Trump isn't handing him everything that he wants on a silver platter, Musk is lashing out, pretending it's all about fixing the two-party system. But let's be real, Elon does not care about democracy, equity, or the well-being of everyday people like you and me. He is a billionaire who could become a trillionaire, and he thinks politics should only serve his personal interests. His sudden complaints about the failures of our political system are not a call for meaningful reform. They are a smokescreen for his bruised and fragile ego. When elites like him talk about the system being broken, which we always hear about, what they really mean is it's not bending far enough in an oligarch's direction. So now he's posturing as some kind of anti-establishment rebel, parroting populist talking points, while continuing to cozy up to the same forces of authoritarianism and corporate dominance that got us here right now. It's not brave, it's not principled, it is driven by pure self-interest dressed up in buzzwords, and Americans should not fall for it for a second, okay? And now, in the most transparently self-serving move yet, Musk is floating the idea of launching his own political party, the so-called America Party. It's like something out of Sunny. The irony is almost too thick to ignore. He claims it's a bold step to break away from the dysfunction of the two-party system, but let's be honest about what this new party would actually be all about. A vanity project designed to consolidate power around Elon Musk himself. If it ever materializes, the American Party won't be some grassroots democratic alternative. It'll be a clubhouse for sycophants, yes men, and tech libertarian lapdogs who parrot whatever Musk says without question. This isn't about giving the American people more choices. It's about giving someone like Elon Musk more control. He's not trying to decentralize power. He's trying to re-centralize it around himself. The same billionaire who crushed union efforts at Tesla spreads misinformation on a social media platform that he bought for no reason. Well, actually, I take that back. He bought it for a good reason. To win over many skeptical voters and also use it to launch his Nazism. He also uses the platform to cozy up to far-right ideologues and wants to fashion a political movement in his own image. Thus, you have what we are seeing right now. If the Republican Party under Trump became a cult of personality, Musk's America Party would take that to the next level. A hollow, corporate-driven echo chamber designed to inflate his ego, protect his interests, and disguise personal ambition as political innovation. Don't mistake it for progress, all right? It's just a new label slapped on the same old oligarch playbook. But getting to this new political party off the ground may not be as easy as Elon Musk may have thought.
You know, Abby, I think it'd be easier for Elon Musk to figure out how to get to Mars than it would be to start a new political party. It's the ballot rules in states are very complicated. This is yet another issue that's decided at the states. Whether your party can be on the ballot is subject to 50 different state laws. They're very complicated. In some places, they're dependent on what you did in the previous election running as an independent to get on the ballot for a future race. To be a viable party, you'd have to run for all offices. You'd have to run candidates for Congress, for Senate, for governor. And Elon Musk has a lot of money, and he's devoted a lot of money to politics. But if he starts a political party, there is a limit to what he can put in under federal election rules to that political party. So this is a very big undertaking, and I think he's probably blowing off steam.
Now, while Elon Musk is clearly a self-interested scumbag, he's not wrong about one thing. The two-party system in this country, the United States of America, is fundamentally broken. It serves entrenched power, not the people. And if you want proof, just look at how many corrupt political insiders, the very ones who've thrived under the system, rush to insist we don't need a third party. Their fear isn't about protecting democracy, it's about protecting their grip on it.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Kellyanne, is Elon Musk serious about the third party?
I hope these two reconcile at some point, but these third parties don't do well in this country.
I want to jump back to that clip of Trump real quick because he makes a hilarious, and I mean hilarious, admission. Watch.
And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked.
It really seems to have been developed for two parties, yeah. You know who developed that? Rich people. Rich oligarchs like you, who took over the United States government decades ago. Trump is so stupid, he doesn't see the irony in his own words that he spews out of his mouth. Didn't he spend his entire 2016, 2020, and 2024 presidential campaigns talking about how flawed our system is? And now he's saying, oh, it's always been like that, so we shouldn't change it, ever. This just shows Trump and Elon are on two sides of the same coin. They cherry pick what suits their agenda and downplay all the other inconvenient truths. And if you need more proof of Elon's cherry picking nature, check out a recent interview I did with former NFL punter turned activist Chris Cluey, where we discuss how Elon wants to be both a capitalist and a socialist. In my eyes, he is a capitalist and a socialist. He's a capitalist because he just loves money. He wants to be a trillionaire, clearly. And he's a socialist because of government subsidies. How would you describe him? And first, how would you describe him? And then I have a follow-up for you.
As a ketamine-addled sociopath would probably be the most accurate words. This is a guy who wants people to think that he's smart, but every time he talks about something, if you actually know the subject matter of what he's trying to talk about, you're like, this guy is a fraud. He has no idea what he's talking about. I wish I had gotten to start my life with a $5 million loan from my father's blood emerald mine. That would have made my life a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
Sadly, not all of us have Elon Musk's background.
And when you look at what he is doing with our government, why are so many people bending over backwards to defend what he is doing?
Because they think that if they defend him, they'll get scraps and pieces falling from his table. I mean, and again, that's another human tale as old as time, right? Like in the royal courts, you had the courtiers, the hangers-on, the gadflies, who were eager for any scrap that fell from the table. And I mean, that is what's happening right now, because let's be really clear. What Elon Musk is doing is illegal. His agency does not have the legal authority to do the things that it's doing. He does not have the legal authority to command people to do the things that he is doing. And in a sane world, our Congress would be saying that. And they would be saying, no, you cannot do this. You cannot go into these buildings. You cannot deputize your private security as federal marshals to try to act as your goon squad. Like, you can't launch rockets that explode in airspace simply because you want to launch a rocket and you have no idea what you're doing. Like, this is a man who wants to be a tyrant and is willing to do anything that he can think of to get there.
I think I saw something on your Blue Sky that he, I've said this in previous pieces. He is using his child as a human shield. Mm-hmm. He continues putting his child on his shoulders everywhere he goes in a way to show that he is family oriented, that he's a family man. When he's up to, is it 14, 15
It's like
kids at
13
this
or
point?
14, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's more than a dozen.
Totally. Yeah. So how does he continue to get away with this? For the party of quote unquote family values, he has 1 million baby mamas. He has a ton of kids. He's getting sued by multiple women because he has shown that he does not care about his kids. So like how is he swindling so many people in the MAGA base for this stuff?
Well, again, because the entire base is built on hypocrisy. It's built on the idea of power and gaining power by whatever means necessary. And they're willing to look the other way if the person gaining power, if they think that person will help them, they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, what he's doing is fine. Like, it's, well, it can't be that bad because he's helping us. And, it's really disturbing to see, because if you have political principles, or if you have ethical principles, when you see someone acting against those principles, you are supposed to call them on it. You're supposed to say, no, this is not right. And this is something that the Republican Party has consistently demonstrated, is that they don't have political principles. They don't have ethical principles. The only principle they have is that of gaining power and then using that to try to get even more power. And to get back to the human shield part, it's also using his kid as a literal human shield. Because you'll notice in a lot of those pictures, Elon Musk is wearing a bulletproof vest, which is why his body shape looks so weird.
I have not noticed that.
Yeah, his kid is not wearing a bulletproof vest. So what kind of father thinks that he's in danger of being shot and then brings his kid along and has no protection for the kid?
Wait a minute. He's wearing a bullet. I thought he was just like really, I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just saying,
no, he is also awkwardly shaped.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's been an analysis on it. A couple different security sites have done it, and I think they figured out what the exact model of the vest is. I don't remember it offhand, but like that is why his torso looks so weirdly shaped, is because he's wearing a bulletproof vest underneath his shirt.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that is interesting and revealing. Weird note to end on, but we do end there. Chris, I really appreciate the time. I appreciate you using your voice. And I think the best way to end is in your own words, where you said, quote, "Never be afraid to do what's right. If no one ever says anything, nothing ever changes." Chris, you are awesome, man. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it as well.
This is something that I wanted to ask you. Did you see the quote from the Dem aide who was like, "Sports are just too right-wing now, and that's why we didn't win"? And it's like, no, there are a lot of reasons why you didn't win, but also there are lefties who are sports fans. Like, yeah, we see Palantir when J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and Donald Trump are at the Army-Navy football game. We see the Lockheed Martin sponsors, and it disgusts us. Like, we know about this stuff. So that was long-winded. Yeah. Did you see the quote?
I didn't, but it's a dumb quote. Sports are more progressive than they ever have been. And in fact, sports lead progress in this country. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier 17 years before the Civil Rights Act.
Amen.
People like Billie Jean King and Althea Gibson were incredibly important when it came to women's rights. And so I think that is an ignorant quote. That is a quote not understanding any of the context of it. And it's a quote not understanding now, because it used to be like, okay, I did a podcast for a bit called Major League Podcast, where I would interview former Major League Baseball players. And so typically these were guys who played in like the 70s, 80s.
Love it.
And I had to unfriend a lot of them on Facebook because I couldn't deal with their bullshit. I was just like, oh my God, their viewpoints are so backwards. And I've gotten to know a bunch of the guys playing now, and they're not like that. Yeah, you got some Nick Bosas, absolutely.
For sure.
But the majority, I think it's the majority now, of people playing professional sports have some progressive in them, if not a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the owners are wealthy billionaires and thus are going to be that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone can go to a game. Like, Trump at a game doesn't make a difference. Like, that doesn't mean the sport is right wing. It just means he bought 3 tickets.
Or was given.
or was given 3 tickets.
Can I read you the
whatever
quote
it
real
was.
quick? Because I pulled it up, and I'd love to put this in context. So this is Harris campaign manager Rob Flaherty, and Awful Announcing posted this quote. It's from Semaphore, so let's give them credit. Sports and culture have sort of merged together, and as sports and culture became more publicly and sort of natively associated with this Trump conservative set of values, it got more complicated for athletes to come out in favor of us. It got more complicated for sports personalities to take us on their shows because they didn't want to, quote, do politics, he went on. That's not to say that it was the campaign person went on. That's not to say Steph Curry and Steve Kerr and LeBron James and all of them coming out wasn't impactful or important. It was more impactful because it had gotten so much harder. But certainly the culture that has been associated with heavy sports watching has become associated with right-wing culture in a way that makes it harder for us to reach people, close quote.
Oh my God, shut up. Like, that is so ignorant and so tone deaf and so out of touch. Also, it ignores the fact that, like, NASCAR is starting to have pride events. And
True.
Like, and I mean, listen to any interview with Greg Popovich. Like, there is such a shift in sports toward the left. And yes, are there these gravy swilling idiots that also exist there? Absolutely. But that is a space that has shown progress before. Sports are such a huge part of accepting people of different races, different genders, and while they are still, there's still a lot of work to be done. There's been tremendous success, and that quote was one of the most sour grapes pieces of garbage I've heard in a long time, and that is a shame because there are a lot of reasons why Harris lost, and I don't think a single one of them has to do with sports.
I agree, but I also think this is just playing the blame game. No one wants to really be like, you know what? There's a reason why we lost. Instead, it's no. We didn't lose. The problem is they couldn't be reached. We did everything right. That's what I'm hearing from this.
The main reason the Harris campaign lost is because they didn't hammer home that Trump's messaging was false. The idea that Trump won because of the economy, yes, whatever party is in power during a bad economy has a disadvantage. But this is a perceived bad economy. This is an individualized bad economy. This is actually a good economy.
Right.
And if the Harris campaign leaned on the idea of how bad things were under Trump, why is he going to make things better? Why do you believe he's going to make things better? Hammered home his business failings, hammered home that the fact that he's a good businessman is a freaking myth, that he's a con man, and like stick to that messaging, that would have been impactful. And I think that would have done it. But, they didn't. Instead, I guess it's Nick Bosa's fault.
Right. It's Brock Bowers' fault for doing the touchdown dance. Yeah, of course. I know that there's a saying in comedy about like punching up. And Carlin even talked about it in that famous clip with Larry King. Do you find it to be rather easy to make fun of someone like a Ted Cruz or a Matt Gaetz because they are millionaires sitting in Congress as policymakers, or because they are just deeply unlikable for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, I find it easy to make fun of Matt Gaetz because he's a pedophile. But I do think that, punching up is important. The victim in life should never be the victim in your joke. The one thing that annoys me is, I posted a joke about Matt Gaetz the other day, and someone commented, and they're like, "Oh, the jokes write themselves," and I was like, "No, they don't. The premises might,
right?
But like, we're still working here, this is still. If they write themselves, why didn't you come up with that?" I do think they make it easier for someone who's in tune with it and someone who writes for a living. But you still have to, in order for a joke to be good, you have to say something other people aren't saying. One of the reasons, to go back to it, one of the reasons the Tony Hinchcliffe MSG performance was so appalling is because, I mean, those were schoolyard jokes. Like, that wasn't a clever way to say any of the things that he was saying. It was just mean.
Right.
It was, there's I'm so annoyed that I do not remember who said this because I quote it all the time. I think it was Ryan Niemiller said that a joke has to be more than 50% funny. So if a joke about race is 70% funny and 30% about race, it's a funny joke. If a joke about race is 30% funny and 70% about race, it's just a racist observation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think a lot of the humor that's out there is generic, and that's okay because I can't fix my car. My mechanic can.
Right.
Professionals can do things that non-professionals can't. That's fine. But I do think that they're such cartoonish supervillains that they do provide a lot of ammo.
Mm-hmm. I've seen, on the same plane, I've seen a performance from Hinchcliffe. I've seen a performance from Jim Brewer when he's going on those tours with like Michael Flynn. Just really, really odd. The Greg Gutfeld show is supposed to be a comedy show on Fox News. It's deeply unfunny and just mean. Can right-wing comedians be funny?
Yeah. Mark Klein is an example of one who, he is a conservative, but his material is not about being mean to people who are already marginalized. It goes back to kind of what I said before about, for the most part, conservative is a philosophy about governing and economics. It's not social at all. And it's turned into something more now, which is unfortunate. But in order to be funny, you need a deep understanding of the human condition. And in order to have a deep understanding of the human condition, you typically recognize who's marginalized and who's not. Now, you can have the skills to be funny and then also be a narcissist or a sociopath or, all these other terms that I'm not qualified to diagnose. And then you think you're the one who's been marginalized. You think you're the downtrodden, etc. I think stand-up should be compassionate. And one of the things I really liked about what Jeselnik said and just his views in general is that the playing field shifts the same way that, like, in 1980, you didn't have to know how to hit a 105-mile-an-hour fastball. Now you do.
Right.
If you were looking at today's game, today's game of baseball with the knowledge that people had in 1980 about weight training, about diet, about sabermetrics, about all this other stuff, you wouldn't be as good. And so when the world changes, when your sport changes, whatever that sport may be, you need to be able to adjust to the change.
Mm-hmm.
And an observation that was valid 20 years ago isn't typically going to be valid now. And so the idea of like, oh, we can't say anything anymore. It's like, no, you can say lots of stuff. You just can't say something stupid and wrong.
Right. And that's how I feel about what, Hinchcliffe has kind of said afterwards in the aftermath of his performance at MSG. And then also, the obvious elephant in the room here in this context is Chappelle, because he went after a marginalized group. Is there a way to, because I know, watching Hassan Piker's streams and seeing the reaction that a lot of people have to Chappelle, because he has a lot of trans fans, is I can't watch his stuff anymore. Is there a way to like?
Oh, sorry, my my wife just got home.
It's
so
okay.
My
My wife just left, so I was figuring my dog was going to do that at some point and how I was going to play it. But yeah, is there a way to like still appreciate the comedy even though they have certain viewpoints that are like detrimental to an entire community?
Well, I've never been able to separate the art from the artist. You know, like I'm not going to be like, oh, but Roman Polanski made brilliant film. I don't care. He's a monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but have you heard the Ignition remix, Steve?
Like the people who, anyone still listening to R. Kelly's music, like just no, don't.
Rough.
But with comedy, it's even more difficult because so much of who a comedian is reflected on stage. And for instance, with Louis C.K., some of my favorite bits of his were his incredible observations about women. And, he has that great bit about how a woman's natural predator is a man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a wonderful observation. But then I go, oh, but it's dishonest. And it came from a place of dishonesty, which makes it difficult for me to appreciate, even though what he said was still valid. With Chappelle, I did a bit about that on my last special, about how when it started, like about our culpability in losing Chappelle. Because when it started, he made a couple of really poor choices in some material. And instead of looking at his body of work and who he is as a person and going, he's one of the most important progressive voices of our time, the internet wanted to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
No one has ever changed their mind from a million people yelling at them, ever. In fact, there have been tons of psychological studies that they will dig their heels in. I understand. I don't think it's the responsibility of someone who's been told that their existence is invalid to then be kind to the person who said so. What is difficult is the people who that wasn't about, who got offended on behalf of other people in a way that they weren't offended as much as they were trying to make themselves feel good about who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And pushed him further and further to the right. And it's at this point, now he's so far over on that we've lost him. I think we do need to take some responsibility in how we react to things. I can't stand that the left is a circular firing squad. But that said, it's very hard for me to listen to him anymore. Because it's hard for me to go, oh, these wonderful views come from the same mind that has these horrible views. And so much of appreciating comedy is an involuntary, laughter is involuntary. And so when in your head you're going, I don't like this guy, nothing they say is going to make you laugh again.